your Slack channel. Hopefully, you have already got the link. So please open the lab file. So, is my screen visible? দেখা যাচ্ছে কি স্ক্রিন? একটু রেসপন্স করতে হবে বাবা, otherwise
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So this is our lab 5, which is on function. So what is function? Let me, if in short, if I tell what is a function is basically a block of code. Previously, you have solved many codes like just if suppose you have to take 5 input numbers from the user, if you have to check if it is a number is an even number or odd number. So function is just a block of code which will execute only when it is called. Function is just a block of code while solving the if block or else block or the branching code. So the body of the if part will only execute when the condition of the if part is satisfied. Otherwise, the body of the if block won't execute. Similarly, like a function is just a block of code. There is a scope, and inside the scope there are some basic codes are written, and this is called just a function is just a block of code which will execute only when it is called. Without calling a function, the code inside the function's body won't execute. Let me just write a simple function. Suppose there one function name suppose event checker, that you are given a question that you have to write a function named event checker, which will just check if a number is an even number, it will print even, and if it is an odd number, it will print odd. So we have already done this code previously. So suppose one input number is stored in a variable number, and we have to check that if the number mod 2 equals to 0, if the remainder is 0, that means it is an even number, and if the remainder is not 0, then it is an odd number. So suppose the function name is event checker. So let me just start with the lab task as well. So just wait a minute. Okay, so just look at the first task. I will go through everything, the basics as much as I can, so don't worry about. So there is a function, right, in class task 1. Write a function called event checker. So I have to write a function whose name will be event checker, that will take a number as its argument. So what is an argument? What is parameter? I will explain it. So it takes a number as its argument and prints whether the function is an even or odd inside the function. Suppose if I take a number, if I solve this problem without using a function, so what will be the problem or what will be the solution? So number equals to int input. I'm just taking one input. Then I just have to check if number mod 2 equals to 0. I just have to print even, or if the number is not equals, if the mod value or the remainder is not 0, that means the output will be odd. We already did this part. Okay, this is a basic problem we covered in probably in our lab 2 or 3. In lab 3, I guess. Lab 2, I guess. So you already did this task. So it's a normal code which takes a number as input and checks if it is an even number, then it will print even, and if it is an odd number, then it will print odd. So what is a function? Function is just a block of code which will execute when it is called. So here the name of the function is given that it should be event checker. So how to define a function? Suppose this is my block of code. Okay, I want to write this portion inside a function's body. So at first I have to define a function. How to define a function? So to define a function, I have to write a keyword as def. Def means short form of define. Definition, define. So short form of define is def. So def, that means I am initializing or defining this function. What will be the name of the function? I have to write after def. So def for defining, and then I have to write the name of the function. Here the function name is given, which is event checker. So basically the function name will be event checker. Okay. One more thing. So at first I have to write define or def, then I have to write the name of the function. After that I have to give parenthesis or the first bracket, opening first bracket and closing first bracket. So I have to give a parenthesis. So then I have to write a colon, just like if else block. So in if block you used to write like this, right? If, then a condition, then colon. Then inside the if block you write multiple lines of statements or multiple statements. So this is a function whose name is event checker. After defining the function, I have to give a parenthesis. Then I have to give a colon. And inside this function, I will just do this thing. Or suppose I am just copying this code inside the function. So this is my function or this is my code. This should be inside the body of my function. Let me delete this part. So suppose this is my function's body, that it will take a number. So I have deleted the number which has taken as input from the user. I have deleted it intentionally. I will explain it. So I am taking one number and I am modding it by 2, and if the remainder is 0, then I am printing even, otherwise I am printing odd. So one thing, it is written that takes a number as its argument. So what is an argument? Whenever I call a function, I have to pass some value. Whenever I call a function, I have to pass some value. I told one thing, a function will only execute or operate only if it is called. If I don't call a function, if I don't call this event checker, this body or this line of code won't execute. So I have to call a function. How to call a function? How to call you if you want to call me? So obviously you will call me by my name, Nazia Miss. So similarly, if you want to call a function, you just have to write its name. So here the name of the function is event checker. So I just have to write its name, event checker, and while calling the function, I will provide or I will give some values. What will it do? Suppose I give 4 here. I am calling this function and I am passing 4 here. I want my function to do that. If 4 is divisible by 2, then it will print even. If 4 is not divisible by 2, it will print odd. So this 4 or the values, not necessarily one value will be passed. It can be 2, 3, 4, 5, more than one values. It can be one values. Even in function, sometimes there is no argument, with just parentheses. That means no values are passed while calling the function. So you have to check will it pass any value or not based on your question. So in my question, it is written that it takes a number as its argument. It takes a number, so it will take one number. Just look at the function call. I am calling my function. So this is my function's name, and I am passing this value 10. So suppose if I pass this value 10, so I must have to take a variable inside the function which will catch this 10. So here from this part I am passing 10, but obviously I have to give a variable, right? Otherwise this 10 should be passed here or catch here through any variable. Suppose I give it num. That means if the value is 10, whenever I call this function, 10 will be passed through number. That means just a bit. So this 10, whenever I am calling a function, it will go inside the body of the function. Whenever I am calling a function, it will go inside the body of the function, and while calling and while passing the value, it will go or it will store in the variable num. So this 10 is called argument, and this num is called parameter. Okay, so here 10 is the argument. So 10. Here 10 is argument and this num is called parameter. Num is parameter. So here I'm calling the function event checker and passing this value 10. This 10 will be stored in the variable num. Here 10 is the argument and the num is the name of the parameter is num. That means if I call this function and pass the value 10, it will store in the num variable, and inside the function obviously I have to use exactly this variable, that num variable, right? Inside the function I will check if this num variable, which holds suppose 10, 20, 50, 5, 6, 17, any number. So it will check if the number is divisible by 2, it will print even, else it will print odd. So this is called function calling. So this line, how to call a function? I just have to write its name and pass through some values. It can be one value, it can be two or multiple. Even there can be some other function that don't pass any arguments. Totally up to your question. If it is written that you have to pass two values, then you have to take two variables. Suppose if you pass two values here, 10 and 20, then obviously you have to take two parameters. The number of arguments and the number of parameters should be matched. So suppose this is my num1 and this is my num2. So here this is my function call. While calling the function, I am passing two values which are called arguments. Here 10 and 20 are arguments. When I am calling a function, it will go inside the body of the function. It will basically check, is there any function defined as event checker in any line above, in between 1 to 5. I have called this function in line number 7, right? So it will check if any function named event checker is initialized or defined before this line. So আমি যদি কোনো একটা লাইনে কোনো একটা ফাংশনকে কল করি, সেটার উপরে চেক করবে যে এখানে কি কোথাও কোনো ফাংশন ডিফাইন করা হয়েছে কিনা. So it can see that in line number 1, one function event checker is defined, which will take two values or two parameters. So 10 will be stored in num1 variable and 20 will be stored in num2 variable. And based on this num1 and num2 and using these variables or these values, I will perform some operations inside the body of the function. So this part from line number 2 to line number 5, these are the body of my function. So the body of the function will only execute if I call the function. Suppose I haven't called this function, so this I have commented this line. আমি function call করিনি, একবারও call করিনি. So I haven't called the function. So this line of code won't execute. Just let me show you. If I run this, it is num. Okay. So it should be. It should execute, right? Because I have written some codes here, but if I run it, it won't execute. Why won't it execute? Because I haven't called the function. A function won't execute if I don't call it. It will execute only if I call it. একটা ফাংশন আপনার তখনই কাজ করবে যখন আমি তাকে কল করব. And how to call a function? By using its name. While calling a function, I will pass some values which are known as arguments. Clear so far? যা বললাম. Any question? যেতটুকু বললাম এতটুকু কি বুঝি?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. If you have any question, please unmute yourself and tell me. Otherwise, it won't be possible for me to understand if you are actually understanding or not.
ম্যাম
জি বাবা বলেন.
ম্যাম ইভেন্ট চেকারে আমি দুইটা ভ্যারিয়েবল যখন নিলাম তখন আমি ইয়াতে প্যারামিটার নাম1 নাম2 রাখলাম, তাহলে আমি এই দুইটা বডিতে ইউজ করব কিভাবে?
আপনি এসে জাস্ট মনে করেন এখানে নাম1 নাম2 দিলাম, তাহলে আপনি এখানে মনে করেন আমি চেক করব, এখানে নাম2 দিয়ে চেক করুন, আমি চেক করতে চাচ্ছি এই দুইটা নাম্বারই আমার ইভেন নাম্বার না. তো আমরা এন্ড দিয়ে কাজ করেছি না. সো নাম2 +2 equals to 0.
Yes ma'am, বুঝতে পারছি. থ্যাংক ইউ.
Okay, so basically আপনি try pass করেন. It can be one value, two value, but based how many arguments you are passing, the number of parameters should be same. So if you are passing two values here, but you are taking one parameter, if I run this code, it will show an error. Look, it is showing an error. What is the error? Even checker takes one positional argument, but two were given. Even checker, this one, even checker takes one positional argument, but here I am passing two arguments. So the number of arguments and the number of parameters should be matched. So I am just passing one value here. So if I run this code, so yes, as 10 is an even number, it's printing even. So okay, so if I run this, one more thing, if you call a function multiple times, it will, the body of the function will execute multiple times. Suppose if I call this function again, suppose if I call this function, and now I am passing the second value, 70, here 70. If I pass this value, so at first, look, how will the line execute? Let me trace for you. So this is my line number 1, or it will just check that here is a function written as even checker, but the body of the function won't execute. Why? Because I haven't called the function. So the function will not execute unless I call it. So this is my line number 1. It just saw that here is a function defined as even checker, but it won't execute. This line from line number 2 to 5 won't execute. So from line number 1, I will jump to line number 7. Here it says that I have called the event checker function, and while here I have called the event checker function, and while calling the function, I have passed 10 as an argument. So this 10 from line number 7, this line, it will just jump to line number 1 here. So 10 will be stored in num variable, and as I have called this function, now the body of the function will execute because I have called the function. So if I write the line numbers, so this is my line number 1. Here I am calling the function. Then from this line, it will jump to this line. So this will be my line number 2. So 10 will be stored in num variable. Then this will be my line number 3. So num mod 2. Is 10 mod 2 equals to 0? Yes, it's equals to 0. That means it will print even. So as the if condition satisfied, obviously the else part won't execute. So done. Again, so after printing this, this will be my line number 4. So from line number 4, it will again jump back to that line in which line I have called the function. That means this line. Okay. After printing even, this line, after printing even, from this line, it will get back to the line in which I have called the function. So from this line, it will get back to this line. And there is no other operation, right? So I have just performed this operation. So that means from even, after printing even, it will get back to this line. So in this line, I am again calling the even checker function and passing the value 17. So this 17 will again go to this num variable, or it will store in the num variable, and again it will perform same operation. Is 17 mod equals to 0? No. So it will perform the else operation. So after printing or, it will again get back to the next line. Is there any other line after line number 8? No, as there is. কিছু বলবেন?
না ম্যাম।
আচ্ছা, so as there is no other line after line number 8, so my program will end here. So if I run the code or call the function again, it will again go inside the body of the function. Suppose 40, so 40 is again even number. So at first for 10 it will print even, then for 17 it will print odd, and for 40 it will print even. So this is basically a basic of function. So one more thing, suppose, let me just, okay, this was task 1, just let me go to task number 2. Then I will print what is a return of a function. So suppose this was your task number 1. So this is my task number 2. Write a function called is even. that takes a number as an argument and prints true if returns true. Number is even, otherwise returns false. That means I have to write another function whose name will be is even, which will basically what it will take a number just like this. It will just take a number, and if the number is an even number, instead of printing even, it will return true. Suppose if I modify this code, so this is my code. So suppose if I just print, instead of printing even, I'm just printing true, a boolean value, true. And instead of printing odd, I am printing false. So if I run this, so as 10 is an even number, it's printing true. If I print for 33, as it is an odd number, it will print false. But one thing, in this function it is written that you have to return true if the number is even, otherwise return false. So what is actually return? Return is basically I am passing some value outside the body of my function. That means basically, suppose if I return this, instead of printing, I'm just returning. There is a keyword called return. Instead of printing or instead of using the print statement, I am just returning. So return true. So where will it return the value, or how will it return the value? Let me show you. Suppose it returns false. Instead of just printing, it's returning some value. So where will it return? Always remember, if I return something inside the body of the function, it will get back to where the function is called. But I said যে আমি যদি কোনো একটা ফাংশন থেকে কোনো কিছুকে রিটার্ন করি, if I return something from a function, সেটা কি করবে, যেখানে ফাংশনটাকে কল করা হয়েছে সেখানে এসে বসে যাবে. Whenever I return something inside a function, it will store where the function is called. So this true will be stored in this line, because in this line or in this portion, the marked portion, I have called even checker function. So what will happen? Any question?
Yes, miss.
Jawab
Miss,
do.
when we are printing it as true, is it printing it as a string or is it printing true as a functional type true?
Okay, so if you want, you can print it as a string. That if you want, you can just return it as true, as a string value. But it would be better if you print it as a boolean value. Okay, why? Because you need this code, you have to use this code in your task 1.3. So if it is not mentioned clearly that you have to return it as a string value, just like this true or a boolean value true, so I will suggest you to always return a boolean value, because if it is a string, the question in the question it should be mentioned that you should return true as a string value, but as it is not mentioned, so it's better to use a boolean value. Okay.
Yes, miss.
Okay, so what I just said, so if you return something from the function, or if you return something inside the body of the function, it will store where the function is being called. So this true will be stored here, or this true will just jump back to this line true. So if I want to print something, so obviously I have to write a print statement, right? If I just write true, so it won't execute, or it won't show in the output panel. But if I want to print this, so obviously I have to write the print statement. So if I undo it, so this true will store in this line, or this true will pass to this portion. So if I want to print the output, or if I want to print the return value, there are two options. Either I can store it in a variable and then print it, or I can directly print it. Suppose if I just do this, print, then function call. So this portion, this marked portion will execute at first. So here I am calling an event checker function and passing 33 as its argument. So 33 will be stored in num variable. Then as 33 is not an even number, so this line won't execute. So it will go to the else portion. So it will return false. So it will return means I am just passing some value from the body of the function to outside the body of the function, or basically I am passing some value outside the function. So আমি এখান থেকে আপনার ফাংশনের বডির ভিতর থেকে কোন একটা ভ্যালু হচ্ছে জাস্ট ফাংশনের বাইরে পাস করে দিতে চাচ্ছি। So here I am passing the value or returning the value. Suppose I gave you 5 chocolates. So next day you returned me 5 chocolates. So previously I gave you 5 chocolates. Suppose this is me. I am giving you 33 here. 33 is the number of chocolate. So you're performing some operations and then you return something. So you will return to whom? Me, because I gave you some values. So this false will be stored here as there is a this will be replaced by false. So as false is here or false is replaced here, false is stored here, and outside the false there is a print statement, so it will print false. If I just print it, look, my output is false. So if I change the value, suppose it is 24, so it is 24, which is an even number. This condition satisfied, so I am returning true. So true will be stored here. Just true will be jump to this line or this portion. So it will be basically this, just like this, true. So as I am printing true, so output will be true. If I run it, so my output is true. This is one approach. I am directly printing while calling the function. Or there is another approach which is written here. So if I am just storing the value at first, I will at first store the value. This is one approach, and this is one approach, and here suppose I am again calling the function even checker and passing suppose 65. So something will return here, either true or false. I want to store it in a variable so that I can use it later. So suppose I am storing it answer equals to this function call. That means from this function call, these lines will execute, and from the body of the function it will return something which will store here. And as I am storing this value to a variable which is called answer, so either true or false will be stored in answer. And if I print answer, it will show me the output, either true or false. For this task, it will show me false. If I change the value 101, 102, so it will show me true. So it is basically the difference between printing inside the function and returning something from the function. So if your question is, if in your question it is said that you have to print something inside the function, you just have to print. You don't have to return anything. But if it is written that you have to return something, so you have to return something. Okay, so there are more details or some other criteria of return, but I want to go through that because আমি যদি ওটা কন্টিনিউ করি আমার পুরো ক্লাস লাগবে। আমি রিটার্নের উপরে আমি ফুল একটা ক্লাস নিতে পারি। সো ওটা আমি করতে চাচ্ছি না, বাকিটা আপনাদের থিওরি ফ্যাকাল্টি দেখাবে। The rest of the part of return statement or the variations of return statement will be covered by your theory faculty. I am just covering those parts which are needed to solve your today's lab class or lab task. Okay. So again, read the question of 1.2. Write a function is even. So for task number 1.2, the name of the function shouldn't be even checker because the name is here is even. So I'm just changing the name of the function is even. That will take a number as an argument and returns true if the number is true, otherwise false. So if I just copy this, so my output should be true, right? So if I run it, yes, my output is true. And if I run this part, now my output is false. So you can call a function as many time as you want, because we are basically using a function to lessen amount the number of lines in a code. If we use a function, we just call a function, it will do the same thing multiple times. We don't have to write same lines of code again and again. So we can just write the code or the statements inside the body of the function, and then we are just calling the function. It will just uh, go inside the body of the function and perform the same operation. Otherwise, I have to write different codes or same codes multiple times. So while using the function, it basically helps me to reduce the number of lines of code. Okay, so hopefully this is clear. So I think you will be able to solve this part. I won't go through this. I will just explain it to you. Write a function called isPos that takes a number as an argument and returns true if it is a positive number. Otherwise, it will return false. So if it is a positive number, it will return true. Otherwise, false. So এটা পারবেন না করতে? Same. It will be just the same, just the name of the function will be changed. It will be isPos and the condition will be changed. How to check if a number is is a positive number or a negative number? You just কিছু বলবেন কেউ? Okay, so how to check a number if it is a positive number or a negative number? If you just give a condition like that if a number is greater than 0, that means it is a positive number, and if the number is less than 0, that means a negative number. So hopefully you will be able to solve this task. I won't solve this task for you. So let me show you task number 1.4. So write a function called sequence. The name of the function should be sequence that takes an integer as its parameter called n. So I have to write a function whose name will be sequence and that will take an integer as its parameter. Now, if n is a positive number, okay, just 1 minute. Okay. So if n is a positive number, then prints all the even numbers from 0 to n. So write a function. The name of the function is sequence now. So let me write a function at first, or define a function at first. The name of the function should be diff sequence. Sequence. What will it take as an argument? It takes an integer as its parameter called n. Okay, so the name of the parameter should be n here, as it is mentioned that the name of the parameter is n. So you have to use exactly the same variable. So I am taking the parameter as name. So there will be some lines in the body of the function. So obviously I have to call the function. So let me first call the function. How to call a function? I just have to write the name of the function. Also, while calling the function, I have to pass a value or an argument which will store inside the n variable. Suppose if I write 10 here, 10 will be stored inside the n variable. So inside the function I have to do something. What will I have to do? It is explained here. So write a function called sequence that takes an integer as its parameter called n. This part is done. Now if n is positive, then print all the even numbers from 0 to 10. Suppose if n is positive, here 10 is a positive number, right? So if 10 is positive, then I have to print all the even numbers from 0 to n. So obviously I have to write a loop here. How to write a sequence? So if I just want to print numbers for I in range, we did this loop, or we already know how this range function works. So if I do this, that from 10, so I have to print all the numbers, even numbers from 0 to 10. From 0 to 10. So obviously my loop will start from 0. So the start from 0 and the stop value should be 10 plus 1, right? But n plus 1. n plus 1. Suppose the value. I'm just solving the task without using a function. You will implement it inside the body of a function. So suppose the value of n is 10. So if I want to print all the values from 0 to n, that means 0 to 10. So I have to start from 0 and it will stop at 11, or the stop value should be 11 because the stop value is exclusive. So n plus 1 and the step value should be 1. So I have to print I. And if I want to print the lines side by side, if the numbers side by side, so I have to use the end keyword. End will be space. So you know what will be the output here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But here in the question it is said that you have to print only the even numbers. How to check a number is an even number or an odd number? We just wrote a function here, right? Is even. So we just wrote a function here. I previously I just told the benefit of using a function is that I can, if I write a function, I can just call it and use it. So no need to write the same code again and again. So this code or this function is already in my collab file or already in this file. So I can use this function anywhere. So suppose this function is here. Make sure while doing the lab assignments, you have to write the function here as well. Suppose this is my isEven function. Let me okay. So this is my isEven function. So what it basically does, if it takes a number, if it is an even number, it returns true, otherwise it returns false. So I will use this function, or I will call this function to check if I is an even number or an odd number. How to check it? Can anyone guess? কিভাবে করতে পারি একটু বলেন তো। আমি is even ফাংশনটাকে ইউজ করব। এখানে দেখেন here I is printing all the numbers from 0 to 10, but I just want to print only those numbers whose are even number. How মানে কি করতে পারি আমি এখানে বলেন। আমার কি I just have to check again if I mod 2 equals to 0, only then I will perform this line, right? It is the basic thing without using the function or without reusing this function. So if the number mod 2 equals to 0, it will print this 0, 2, 4, 5, 6, 8. But I want to reuse this function. How to reuse? Can't I check here? Look, if is even equals to true. So what is does basically is even. So is even, I am calling this function, and while calling this function I have to pass a value, right? Because this function takes one number as a parameter. So which value I have to pass here? I have to check the I, because I just did this thing previously. I mod 2 equals to 0. So to check if I is even number, I have to do this thing, but I am just reusing the previously used function or previously written function, which is even. So basically I am calling this function even, and as an argument I am passing I. So I am checking here is even function while passing the value of I. So this function will call, and suppose in the first iteration the value of I is 0. So I am calling the function is even, and as an argument I am passing 0. So 0 will be stored in num variable. Is num2 or 0 not equals to 0? Yes. So it will return true. So basically I am checking here if the returned value from the function is equals to true, that means I is an even number, right? If I do this and print this, it will show me the same output. বলেন এই জিনিসটা কি বুঝলাম কি করলাম এখানে?
Yes.
Okay, basically I am just calling the function. Make sure you have written this function inside the same code block. Okay, in Colab file, for the Colab file, Google Colab, if you write the function in anywhere inside this file, it will work. But if you use Python Jupyter Notebook, you must have to write the code or the function which you want to use here again. The function should be in the same code panel. It should be here. So if while you are writing your assignment or solving your homework problems or classwork problems, make sure you write the functions. So for task number 1.2 you have to write this, and for task number 3 or task number 1.4. So you make sure you have to write this again. So while using this function, your code, this portion should be compiled and run previously. Otherwise, if this portion is not here, whenever you are calling this function isEven function, it will check if any is function name isEven is defined previously, but there is no isEven function, so it will show an error. That's why you have to write this function. So this is my function. So I'm here checking. Suppose for the first iteration I equals to 0. Suppose in the second iteration I is 1. So I am calling the function isEven and passing 1. So 1 is passed here and stored as a num variable. 1 not to equals to 0? No. So else it will return false. Is false equals to true? No. False is not equals to true. That means 1 won't be printed in the output. So let me show you the code again. So write a Python function. You have to write a function called sequence that takes an integer as parameter. So this is my function. Suppose this is my function. Inside the function I have to write the code. So if number is a positive number, then print all the even numbers from 0 to n. Otherwise, if n is negative number, print all the odd numbers from n to minus 1. You must reuse CW 1.2 and 1.3. Otherwise, this task would be considered invalid. So at first I have to check if the number is positive or not, or if this n is a positive number or not. So I have already written a function which takes a number and check if it is an even number or odd number. Here in task number 1.3, I told you to do this task by yourself. So suppose if this is my function, there is a function called def is pos. It will check one number, then if is less than 0, that means it is a negative number, so it will return false. So I want to the code, it will return false. Otherwise, it will, you have to implement the code. I am just commenting the lines here. So it will return true. So suppose this is my pos function. Okay, suppose this is my pos function, so I have to use this pos function at first. So I will call this function if is pos. If the returned value from the pos function is true, that means n is a positive number, then I will check if it is even number or odd number. But at first I have to check if it is a positive number. So here I will pass n. So if the return value from the is pos function is equals to true, that means I have to print all the even numbers from 0 to n. So here I have to write these lines of code. This one. So if it is a positive number, then I will write a loop which will iterate from 0 to n plus 1, and it will print only I if it is an even number. Similarly, if it is a negative number, that means for this if I have to write a else condition. So else if n is not a positive number, that means while calling the isPos function, if my returned value is false, that means it is not a positive number, it is a negative number. So I have to do this part. You have to print all the odd numbers from n to minus 1. So again, I have to write a loop for suppose j in range. It will start from n to minus 1. So the start value should be n. The stop value should be, what will be the stop value? The stop value should be, আমাকে বলেন তো এখানে স্টপ ভ্যালুটা কত হবে? What will be the stop value? I want to print from n to minus 1. suppose n is suppose this one, as n is -7, so I have to print -5, -7, -5, -3, -1. So what will be the value? Stop value কি হবে এখানে?
It would be 0, then comma, then -1. So
Yes.
that it would,
So the stop value should be 0 and I have to decrement the value by 1. So suppose the value of n is -7. -7, no dear, the value shouldn't it be +1? So I'm incrementing the value n to -1. So n is a negative number. So if I want to go from -7 to -8, I have to, -7 to -6, so I have to +1, add 1. One thing, just let me write a loop here at first. For j in range, suppose it will start from -7, then it will stop at 0 and the step value will be -1. The step value will be 1. So if I print j n equals to this, so the stop value should be 1. I am incrementing the value. I want to go check all the values from my n to -1. So stop value is okay, but the step value should be +1. So it's basically printing or accessing all the values, -7, -6, -5, 4, 3, 2, 1. But I want to print only the odd values. So again, I have to check this statement. If the return value from the isEven function is a false, then I have to print j. Otherwise, I don't have to print anything. So এটা পারবো না, এই জিনিসটাকে জাস্ট আমাকে এখানে কিছু ইমপ্লিমেন্ট করতে হবে. I just have to do some modifications here. So it will be j here, and obviously I have to print j here, but there will be some modifications here. You have to implement it. বলেন, বুঝলাম নাকি? Is there any question, any confusion? কারো কোয়েশ্চেন নেই?
ম্যাম এখানে ইজ পজ আর ইজ ইভেন কেন ব্যবহার করা হলো? এখানে তো ইনপুট সিকোয়েন্স নিচ্ছে না।
আচ্ছা, ইজ পজ ইজ ইভেন কেন নিচ্ছি দাঁড়ান দেখাচ্ছি। আপনাকে কোয়েশ্চেনে বলে দিয়েছে যে আমাকে অবশ্যই ইজ ইভেন ইজ পজ এই দুটো ফাংশনকে ইউজ করতে হবে, ইউজ করেই কাজ করতে হবে। এখন আমি সিকোয়েন্স তো প্রিন্ট করছি, ঠিক আছে, সিকোয়েন্স প্রিন্ট করছি ওকে, বাট সিকোয়েন্সের মধ্যে আমি তো সব নাম্বার প্রিন্ট করছি না। এখন আমি যদি এই জিনিসটা না করতাম তাহলে কি আমাকে আবার এই জিনিসটা লিখতে হতো না, যে মড টু ইকুয়ালস টু 0 ইভেন কিনা বা নট ইকুয়ালস টু 0 এটার জন্য চেক করতে হতো। বাট এই কাজটা আমি অলরেডি একবার করে এসেছি উপরে ফাংশন, এখানে তো করে এসেছি ইভেন চেক করার জন্য। তাহলে শুধু আমি সেম কোড কেন বারবার করব? দ্যাটস ওয়াই আই এম জাস্ট রিইউজিং দ্য প্রিভিয়াস ফাংশন।
ম্যাম এটা কি তাহলে উপরের ওই ফাংশনটা অ্যাক্সেস করতে পারবে?
ইয়েস, ওখানটাকে অ্যাক্সেস করতে পারবে, বাট মেক শিওর ইউ হ্যাভ টু রাইট দ্য ফাংশন ইনসাইড দ্য সেম ব্লক। কোল্যাবের জন্য কাজ করবে, কোল্যাবের জন্য আপনি যেখানেই কাজ লিখেন না কেন সেম ফাইলে থাকলেই হলো, কোনো সমস্যা নেই। বাট আপনি যদি জুপিটার নোটবুকে করতে চান তখন অবশ্যই আমাকে সেম ব্লকে ফাংশনটা থাকতে হবে। দ্যাট মিনস দিস ইজ মাই সিকোয়েন্স ফাংশন, সো এখানে আমার থাকবে একটা ইসপজ ফাংশন। মাই ইসপজ ফাংশন শুড বি হিয়ার। This is my ispos function, and my isEven function will also be inside the same block or same code block. This one. Only then you can access the function. Otherwise, you won't access the function. So while solving your lab task 1.4 plus what task 1.4, make sure you write these functions again. For isEven, for ispos, and you're just using this function again here. বুঝলাম?
ইয়েস ম্যাম।
Okay. So অ্যাকচুয়ালি হয় কি, আপনাদের যদি থিওরিতে এভাবে ধরে থিওরি বুঝিয়ে এত কিছু করা যায় তাহলে অ্যাকচুয়ালি আমাদের একটু সমস্যা হয়ে যায়। দেখেন আমি কতক্ষণ হচ্ছে, 1 ঘন্টা প্রায় হয়ে গেছে। আচ্ছা দেখেন, so so hopefully from task number 1 is done and you already have understood it. I have already 90% task I have already completed, so I won't show codes for the remaining task. I will just explain it. I have showed the codes for task 1 because you didn't have any basic idea of function. That's why I actually showed the code here, but for the remaining task I won't show the codes because the tasks are similar. So just I will explain task number 2, you will solve it. So in task number 2 it is written that write a function called is valid triangle. So obviously you have to define a function whose name will be is valid triangle that takes 3 integer number as arguments. For task number 1 you were just taking one number as an argument, right? From the while function calling you are just printing, you are just passing 10, 17, 50, -5, just like this. But in task number 2 it said that you have to take 3 integer numbers as argument. Check the function call is valid triangle, you are passing 3 values, so obviously the number of arguments and the number of parameters should be same. So as you are passing 3 values here, so in the function call or while defining the function, the number of arguments or the number of variables should be 3. Not more than 3, not less than 3. It should be 3. So def, suppose A, B, C. So there will be some lines inside my function's body, and in this line I will call the function. So this is my function call. In this line I am just calling the function, and while calling the function I am passing 3 values. 7 will be stored as in a variable, 5 will be stored in B variable, and 10 will be stored in C variable. So inside the body of the function I have to perform some operation. What I have to do, it is explained here, it is written here. So look, write a function is a valid triangle that takes 3 argument number as arguments, 3 integer number. So আমি নিয়ে নিলাম 3টা number. The function will return true if 3 sides can form a valid triangle, otherwise it will return false. So you should know what is the condition of a valid triangle. It's already written here. In a valid triangle, the sum of any 2 sides will be greater than the third one. So basically you have to check, you have to give a if-else condition. If it is a valid number, it will return true. If it is not a valid triangle, it will return false. So how to check if it is a valid triangle? The summation of any 2 sides will be greater than the third one. So there are there will be 3 combinations, right? So one combination will be A plus B should be greater than C. This one, then B plus C should be greater than A, and another condition will be C plus A should be greater than B. So these 3 conditions, these 3 statements or these 3 equations satisfied, 3 of them should be satisfied, right? একটা বড় হলো, এই দুইটাকে যোগ করলাম, এখানে একটা ছোট ভ্যালু পেলাম, তখন কিন্তু কাজ করবে না। These 3 conditions must be satisfied. So if these 3 conditions satisfied, then it will return true, otherwise it will return false. So I won't solve this problem, you have to solve this. So you have to check, I am just writing here. First check the conditions, then return true or false based on the condition. I think you will be able to solve this task, so I won't go through it anymore. So let's check task number 2.2. So let's see task number 2.2. It's just expansion of task number 2.1. So write a function called try area. The name of the function will be try area. That takes three sides. Of a triangle as arguments. So again, you have to take three values here while calling the function. You are passing three arguments. So obviously, inside the function or while defining the function, the number of side or the number of parameters or the number of variables should be 3. So the function should calculate and print area of triangle only if it is a valid triangle, otherwise print it's not a valid triangle. That means I am passing three sides of a triangle and I will print the area of a triangle only if it is a valid triangle. এটা যদি valid triangle না হয় আমি কিভাবে area calculate করব? So what is my task? What will be the sequence of my task? So at first define the function. At first I have to define the function, so I have to pass these three values. So this is my function, so I am calling this function. This is my function, so there should be three arguments, abc, or if you want you can take side 1, side 2, side 3. It can be any variable, side 1, side 2 and side 3. So you have to implement your code here, the body of the function, and I am calling the function. How to call the function? So this is my function call. While calling the function I am passing these three values, 3, 2 and 1. So this 3, 2 and 1 will be replaced or stored in side 1, side 2 and side 3 variables. So I have to, the function should calculate and print the area of a triangle. Print the area, that means I have to print the area of a triangle inside the function. If it is written that you need to return the area of the triangle, that means inside the function you have to use the return statement. As it is not said to return anything, it is said that you have to print anything. That means inside the function you have to print the area of the function. So obviously I am calculating the area of the function, so I have to take a variable area equals to, initially area equals to 0. I will update it later using this condition or this equation. So before calculating the area of a triangle, I have to check if it is a valid triangle. If it is not a valid triangle, then I don't have to calculate the area and print the area. So at first I have to check if it is a valid triangle. So how to check if it is a valid triangle? I have already created a function here, is valid triangle. So I will just call this function. Again, the same task, just like task number 1.4. So I have to call this function. If I am showing the calling first just. So if this function, the return value of the function is equals to true. That means, okay, one thing. So while calling the function, I have to pass some values. So what will be the values? This side 1, side 2 and side 3. So side 1, then side 2 and side 3. So if this function returns true, that means it is a valid triangle. So inside this part I have to calculate the area of the triangle. But if it is not a valid triangle, that means from the function it returns false. That means it is not a valid triangle. Then I just have to print can't form triangle. So I just have to print it. Can't form triangle. So inside this part I have to calculate the area of the function. So this part is important, how you are reusing a function inside, how you are reusing another function inside one function. So this is my actual function, try area. So inside the try area, I am reusing this function is valid triangle which I have defined previously. This part. So I am just reusing this function, and while calling this function or reusing the function, I am passing these values. So how to calculate the area of a triangle? So here is the formula. The area of a triangle is this square root of s, this one. Here s is the semi-parameter of the triangle. So semi-parameter equals to parameter by 2 this part. Okay. Yeah. So semi-parameter is this. So okay. So you have to calculate the at first you have to here you have to calculate the value of s. So s will be something. How to calculate the value is the equation is given. This one. How to write the square root. এটা কি জানি how to use a square root? There is a math library, and inside the math library there is a built-in function called math.square root. এটা কি আমরা থিওরিতে দেখেছি?
না ম্যাম
Okay, so let me show you this. There is a library called math. Import math. Math is a built-in library which is inside the which is inbuilt in Python. So it is a library, and inside this library there are some built-in functions. There are some built-in functions. Suppose, for example, there is a function. There are some values related to math. Suppose we know the value pi, right? Pi equals to, we know it is 3.1416. 3.1416, but we don't know the actual value of pi. But inside the math function, the actual value of pi is 2. So how to use that? So how to use any value of function, any value or function of math library? At first, I have to import that library. What does import mean? Import basically means I am importing or making a connection of math library in with this file, with this column. I'm basically importing all the built-in functions, variables of math library in this column file. So then I can use it. Without importing the math library, you won't be able to use it. So I am importing this library, and how to use the value? Suppose I want to use the pi value. So I have to at first write the name of the library, which is math. So math, then dot pi. If I write this math.py, that means math is the library. It basically means that go to that library, and inside the library find the value of pi and print it. So if I print it, let me comment on this lines. So if I print this, it will show me the value of pi. So this is the full value of pi, 3.1415, something like this. So there is one more. There are some other built-in functions of math library. Suppose one function is, suppose I am storing the value of this function math dot sqrt, square root. It's basically performing the square root operation. So if I write 8, so square root of 8, the value of, okay, one thing I have to print it. So print if I print this, so my output is this one. Let me comment on this line showing an error. So if I square root is, the value of the square root is this one. So if I square root suppose 16, the value should be 4, right? So it's basically passing a float value. Always remember the built-in square root function always pass a float value. So instead of passing 4, it's basically giving me 4.0. So you just have to use this math.square root while calculating the area of the triangle. So let me uncomment this line. So you have to calculate the value of s. What is the value of s? The equation is given here. S equals to a plus b plus c divided by 2. So you will be able to do it. So what is ABC? What ABC means? This here. Side 1, side 2, side 3. That means S will be side 1 plus side 2 plus side 3 divided by 2. So after calculating the value of S, you have to put the value inside this function. So how to write this? Suppose let me show you. area equals to math.sqrt. I'm calling the square root function. I'm calling the square root function and passing this value. So inside the square root function, s into s minus side 1, then again, then I am multiplying it side 1, then I am multiplying it with s minus side 2 and so on. Hopefully you will be able to do this. So side 2 and again into s minus side 3. So you are basically doing this. Okay. So it will calculate the area of the triangle, and after that you have to print the area. It is shown that it is written that you have to print the area inside the function. Then you just have to print the area of the function. And if this is not a valid triangle, so it will print can't form a triangle. Any question আছে এখানে? Any questions? Okay. One more thing, while calculating the area, you will see that there will be 7-8 values after the decimal point. If you calculate the area, it will print more than 4, at least 8-9 values after this point. So this is the area of this function is 16.284. So you have to just print only 3 points after decimal. So for that there is a function, round function. You can use that. How to use that? I am just showing it here. Suppose round of 1 point, just like this. If I want to round it to 2 values, so I just have to write round this one. How many up to which points I want to round this. So after decimal it will take only 2 values, so it will round 2 values. So it is suppose b. If you print this b, it will round the value. Print b. So 1.34. So that means, okay, one thing I need to comment out this line first, otherwise it will show an error. So if I run this, yes, this is 1.35. So you can use the round function. You have to actually use the round function, otherwise it will show a very large number. So what you can do it, you can just call the round function here, and if you want to keep only 4 digits, so just write 4. If you want to keep 6 digits, just write 6 here. বলেন কোনো কোয়েশ্চেন আছে এই টাস্কে? Any questions, any confusions? যা যা বললাম বুঝছি, কোনো কোয়েশ্চেন থাকলে বলতে হবে।
ম্যাম রাউন্ড ফাংশনটা কল করার জন্য কি ইম্পোর্ট ম্যাথ লাগবে নাকি?
You don't need the import library to use the round function. ওটা হচ্ছে আপনার built-in একটা ফাংশন, এটা আপনার ম্যাথ লাইব্রেরির কোনো ফাংশন। যেমন যে আমরা min max print ফাংশন, এগুলো কি built-in ফাংশন না? built-in ফাংশন, already built-in. It's not inside the library, math library. So you don't need to import the math library. You just have to write the round function. No need to import the math library.
আর ম্যাম ট্রাই এরিয়াতে যখন নাকি আমি ইজ ভ্যালিড ট্রায়াঙ্গেল ওই ফাংশনটা কল করব, তখন যদি আমি এবিসি রেখে দেই, যেটা হলো গিয়ে আগের ইজ ভ্যালিড ট্রায়াঙ্গেলের ছিল ভ্যারিয়েবল ছিল, তাহলে কি আগের বার যে ভ্যারিয়েবল গুলো কল করেছিলাম ওইগুলো দিয়ে ক্যালকুলেট করবে?
না না, দেখেন কিভাবে কাজ করছে। আপনি হচ্ছে যখন এখানে ইজ ভ্যালিড ট্রায়াঙ্গেলটাকে কল করছেন, আপনি সাইড 1, সাইড 2, সাইড 3 দিয়ে দিচ্ছেন। সো এই সাইড 1, সাইড 2, সাইড 3 টা বেসিক্যালি কি, এই যে 3, 2, 1, so basically 3, 2, 1 are replaced by side 1, side 2 and side 3. So 3 is passed to side 1 variable, then side 2 is 2 now, and side 3 is 1 now. So while calling this function, you are basically passing 3, 2, 1. That means from this line it will jump through that line where the is valid function is called. So where is my is valid function triangle? Suppose this one. So A will be replaced by 3, B will be replaced by 2, and C will be replaced by 3. এমন না যে আমাকে অবশ্যই সেম ভ্যারিয়েবলের নামই ইউজ করতে হবে। আপনি এখানে সাইড 1 সাইড 2 নিয়েছেন, কোনো সমস্যা নেই। আপনি চাইলে এখানে এ বি সি নিয়েও করতে পারেন, ওটাতে কোনো সমস্যা হবে না। কিন্তু মেক শিওর করবেন আপনি যদি এখানে এ বি সি নেন, এই যে এ বি সি নেন, তাহলে অবশ্যই আপনাকে এখানে এ বি সি ধরতে হবে, কারণ আপনি তো সাইড 1 সাইড 2 সাইড 3 ডিফাইন করেন। আপনি যদি ডিফাইন না করেন তাহলে আপনি ভ্যালুগুলো কিভাবে পাস করছেন, রাইট? আপনি যে ভ্যালুগুলো ধরবেন এক্স্যাক্টলি ওই ভ্যালুগুলোই আমাকে পাস করতে হবে। ক্লিয়ার?
Yes, ma'am.
আচ্ছা, okay, so this was our task number 3. So 2. Okay, task number 3, the first two tasks of task 3 is quite easier. So write a function called circle that takes a radius at its parameter and returns the area of the radius. So you know how to write a function. The name of the function will be circle. How to calculate the radius, which takes a radius. Okay, so obviously you have to take one argument, and while defining the function you have to take one parameter. So radius. Okay, 1 minute. So while calling this function, suppose def circle, so obviously you will take r or radius or any value, any variable you want to take. There is no hard and fixed rule. You can take any variable. If you want, you can take r, but make sure if you take r here inside the function, you must use r everywhere where you want to use radius, the value of radius. If you take radius here, but inside the function, inside the body of the function, you are using r, it won't find r, right? Because you haven't defined r. What is r? There is no function, there is no variable defined as r. So obviously you have to use the same variable or the same name which you have taken while defining the function inside the function. So you have to take the same names. If you are taking radius here, so inside the function, while calculating the area of the function, you have to take exactly the same name. So how to calculate the area of a function? Area equals to pi r square. So what will be the value of pi? I just showed you how to use the value of pi. At first you need to import the library math, then you have to use math.py. So you just have to write here. So at first you have to import the library. Always make sure you import the library at the very beginning of your code. Always import the library at the very beginning of your code. So you are just importing math library. And inside the function you are using a value from the math library. So how to use it? Math dot name of the variable, math.py into radius square, pi square. So radius square, how to write the radius square? So radius, you can do this like this or radius into radius, so you know how to do it, so no need to show this. So this is my area, and you have to print or return. Let me see it first. So you have to return the area. So you have to just return the area. So previously you were returning either true or false. In this task or for this task, you have to return the value of area. So you will just return area. Return area. Done. This is my task. This is my 3.1 task. So hopefully you will be able to solve it. And again, if you want to truncate the values after the decimal point, so you can use the round function. Okay, so I hope you will be able to solve this. So this is my task number 3.2. Okay, আমি কি ফাস্টে যাচ্ছি? Am I going too fast? ফাস্টে যাচ্ছি অনেক? দেখেন আপনাদেরকে পড়াচ্ছি, আপনারা যদি কথা না বলেন আমি কিন্তু বুঝবো না। আচ্ছা, ঠিক আছে। আমি ছিলাম প্রিভিয়াসলি আমি এই টাস্কগুলো সলভ করেছি, মানে আপনাদের তো 1 নাম্বার পুরোটাই আমি দেখালাম। I have fully covered task 1.1, 1.2, 1.3 and 1.4. So if you understood this 4 tasks, then the remaining tasks will be easier for you. That's why I'm going a bit faster, as these are a very basic task of function, very basic. সো আপনাদের যদি আগে থিওরি ক্লাস হয়ে থাকতো তাহলে বেসিক্যালি এগুলো আমার দেখানোরই লাগতো না, কারণ এগুলো একদম বেসিক টাস্ক। সো দেখেন in task number 3.2 what is said. So okay, 1 minute. Write a function called sphere. So the name of the function will be sphere that takes a radius. Again, just like this task, the name of the function was circle here, which takes a radius. So in task number 3.2, the name of the function will be sphere, which will take radius as its parameter and returns the volume of the sphere. So this is my formula. You know how to put the values. So you here 4 by 3 pi r cube. So pi, you have to use the math library math.py, then you will be able to calculate it. Just the same thing, you just have to calculate the area of sphere. The name of the function will be sphere, the formula will be different, and the remaining portion will be the same. So this is your task number 3.2. Then I will explain this task. This is 3.3. So it's just an extension of task number 3.1 and 3.2. Previously, while solving this task, suppose 2.2, you used that is triangle variable method, right? Is valid triangle. You reuse that task function. For 1.4, you use the previous two functions, is even, is pos. Similarly, in task 3.3, you have to use these two functions, area and volume. These two functions, area and sphere, circle and sphere, these two functions. So let me read the question at first. Write a function called fitting. The name of the function will be fitting that takes 3 integer values as arguments. Okay, so you have to write a function called fitting that will take 3 arguments. So the number of arguments will be 3. So number of parameters will also be 3. You have to take 3 variables to store those 3 parameters, 3 arguments. Okay, first 2 arguments are the 2 diameters, and the third argument is the dimensions. Among those 3 integer values, the first 2 arguments will be the diameters. That means the dash, right? Dash. আমি এখানে the diameters pass করছি. So this the first 2 arguments will be 2 diameters, and the third argument will be the dimension. If it is 3-dimensional, if the third argument, the value of the third argument, which basically indicates the dimension, if the dimension is 3, then you must calculate the volume of the sphere. Otherwise, calculate the area of the circle. So look what is said, that you just have to write a function whose name will be fitting, which will take 3 arguments. Among those 3 arguments, 2 arguments indicates the 2 diameters. 2 arguments indicates the 2 diameters, and the third argument is the dimension. Based on those 3 arguments, you have to calculate either the area of a circle or the volume of a sphere. How to do it, or how will I find out if I have to calculate the area of a circle or the volume of a sphere? It is basically based on the dimension of the argument, or the value of the dimension. So if the dimension is 3, if it is 3-dimensional, then you must calculate the volume of sphere, otherwise calculate the area of the circle. Finally, find out and print which circle can fit inside which one. Also print how much space would be left if the smaller circle is put inside larger one. Okay, let me show you some portions, or the at least pseudocode of the code. So suppose if at first I have to define a function. At first I have to define this function. The name of the function will be fitting. So this is my function. How to define a function? I have to write def. What will be the name of the function? Fitting. So I have to write fitting. How many arguments will be there? There will be 3 arguments, 3 integer values. So there will be 3 arguments. So So as there will be 3 arguments, the number of parameters will also be same, or the number of variables I have to take will also be same. So suppose I take 3 variables, suppose diameter 1. I'm just taking a meaningful name, diameter 2 and dimension. The first two indicates diameters and the third one indicates dimension. So I took diameter 1, diameter 2 and dim for dimension. Okay. So inside the function, I will do some code, but make sure you call the function, because if you don't call the function won't execute. If you write the code, if you define the function, write the body of the function, everything, but you haven't called the function, so it won't never execute. So if you don't call your function in the exam hall, so you will a huge portion of marks will be cut or deducted. Okay, so make sure you call your function. So how to call a function? You have to call the function by using its name. What is the name of the function? Fitting. So the name of the function is fitting. While calling the function, as you have taken 3 parameters, obviously you have to take 3 arguments. Suppose for this task the arguments are 8, 10 and 2. So 8, 10 and 2. So my outer part is done. So I have to do something inside my function. So what will be my approach, or what will I do at first? Okay, so read the question again. The first 2 arguments are 2 diameters and the third one is dimension. Okay, done. I have taken variables name accordingly. So if it is a 3-dimensional, then you must calculate the volume of sphere. So you have to check the value of dimension, right? You have to check the value of this dim. If it is 3, then you have to calculate the volume of sphere. Otherwise, calculate the area of circle. So obviously I have to check it. So I need some if else condition, and just writing an if else condition, that if the value of a diameter equals to 3, so calculate the volume of sphere. But if it is not 3, then calculate the area of circle. This is the very first thing I have to do. So this is the first thing. So I just wrote 2 conditions, one if else condition. If the diameter is 3, আমাকে এখানে বলেই দিয়েছে যে যদি ডায়ামিটারটা আপনার 3 হয়, আমি হচ্ছে স্ফিয়ারের ভলিউমটা বের করব। And if the diameter is 2, then I have to calculate the area of a circle. এখন একটা জিনিস দেখেন, we have already written a function above for calculating the area of a circle and volume of a sphere. We already wrote 2 functions here. So I just have to call the function. I don't need to write the function again using this formula again and again. I don't need to do this again. So I will just call the function. Here I have to calculate the volume of the sphere. That means in this part I have to call the sphere function, and inside the else part I have to call the circle function. But one thing, just look at one thing. So suppose if I call this function here, I will just call this function. Suppose I have to calculate the area volume of the sphere, so obviously I have to call the sphere function. So this is my sphere function. So while calling the function, so I have to pass some value, right? Okay, one thing. Okay, so I have to pass some value. So what will be the value? In the previous task, it said that it takes a radius in its parameter. Though I haven't written the function, but you know how to write this function, right? এখন কি আসতেছে? আমি তো এখন ঢুকতে দিব না। কি আসলো? আচ্ছা, okay, so you know how to do this task, right? So this sphere function will take a radius. So this will take radius as its argument. Okay, so this will take radius as its argument. But here, look, I am passing the diameters. The first two arguments are diameters. So how to calculate the radius from a diameter? We just have to divide it by 2. ডায়ামিটার হচ্ছে আমার ব্যাসটা, সো ব্যাসকে আমি যদি 2 দিয়ে ভাগ করি তাহলে আমার ব্যাসার্ধ চলে আসবে। So while calling the sphere function, I have to pass the diameter of, I have to call the function 2 times. Why? I have to call the sphere function 2 times. That means this is the radius, this is the diameter of my first circle or first sphere, this is the diameter of my second sphere. So suppose circle 1, sphere 1, sp1 volume equals to something. That means while after calling the function, it will return some value and it will store inside this variable sp1 vol means I am storing the volume of sphere 1. So while calling the function, I have to pass diameter 1 by 2. Why diameter 1 by 2? Because here it is diameter, but while calculating the value, I need to pass the radius. That's why I am dividing it by 2. Similarly, for okay. So similarly, I have to do the same thing for sphere 2. So volume again. So this is the diameter of my first object. This is the diameter of my second object or second sphere. So I have to call the sphere function here again. So again, I have to pass the diameter of sphere 2 and I am just dividing it by 2. So this is the part how to call the sphere function. Similarly, I have to do the same thing for the circle function, because if the dimension is not 3, then it will calculate the area of circle. So you just have to do the same thing, for the circle function. So suppose circle 1 area equals to something, you have to call the function here, and circle 2 area equals to মাকসুদুর রহমান, আপনাকে মাকসুদুল হক আপনাকে অ্যাটেন্ডেন্স দিচ্ছেন। আপনি এখন বাজে 3:45, আপনি এখন ক্লাসে জয়েন করেছেন, আপনি আজকে অ্যাটেন্ডেন্স পাচ্ছেন না। আচ্ছা, so here you have to again calculate the area of circle 2, so by using or by calling this function. So this is my second task. So I'm checking the dimension. If it is a sphere, then I'm calculating the volume of the sphere, but if it is a circle, then I'm calculating the area of the circle. Same thing, you just have to call the circle function. Done. Then there is one more thing. Finally find out and print which circle can fit inside which one. Obviously the large one, the smaller one will be fit inside the larger one, right? So আমার একটা বড় একটা sphere অথবা একটা circle, there is one sphere, there are basically two spheres, either two spheres or two circles. So obviously the smaller one will be inside the larger one. So I just have to check if the volume of the first circle is greater than the second circle. That means first circle will be stored inside the second circle. There are just some basic condition. I don't need to explain it. You just have to just check. There will be some basic condition that if sp1 volume if sp1 is greater than sp2, that means sp2 will be inside sp1 same. Otherwise else sp sp1টা বড় হয় sp2টা ছোট হয় তাহলে কি আপনার sp1 এর ভিতরে sp2টা থাকবে, so sp2 will be inside sp1. আর যদি if the reverse or sp2 is greater than sp1, that means sp1 will be inside sp2. Similarly, you have to write some if else condition for this part for the circle part. Again, same thing. Just like the sphere part, you just have to write some conditions for the circle part to check which circle's area is greater than. So, if circle 1 is greater than circle 2, that means circle 2 will be inside circle 1. And you also have to print how many areas, how much space will be left if the smaller circle is put inside the larger one. You just have to calculate the difference between two areas or two volumes, nothing else. এটা পারার কথা, না পারার কিছু নেই. If you have any question in this task, please let me know. দেন আমরা হচ্ছে আমাদের অনেকগুলো টাস্ক বাকি, আমাদের দুইটা ট্রেসিং বাকি and also recursive function একটা জিনিস বাকি. So আমাকে একটু বলেন এখানে কোয়েশ্চেন আছে কিনা, otherwise I will give you 5-minute breaks. So after 5 minutes I will continue, just 5 minutes. So leave নেওয়া যাবে না, you can't leave the meet, but I will give you 5 minutes break because I'm continuously talking and I know most of you are already bored and tired, so I'm giving you 5 minutes break. After 5 minutes, that means after at 3:51 I will start again from task number 5. Later I will explain the tracing. So if any of you have any question regarding this task, you can say, otherwise I will take a break for 5 minutes. কোনো question আছে?
ম্যাম কোড কি দেখানো যাবে একটা?
কোড কোনটা দেখতে চাচ্ছেন বলেন, আমি তো এখানে
মানে আমি লিখছি
ও
ম্যাম।
আচ্ছা, আপনি হ্যাঁ যাবে, আমাকে ডিএম করেন, আমি লিখছি. Okay, I'm giving 5 minutes break. আপনারা রেস্ট নেন, 5 minutes পর আমি স্টার্ট করব আবার.
ম্যাম স্ল্যাকে দিব?
হ্যাঁ, আপনি আমাকে স্ল্যাকে দেন. So let's start again. So let's solve the task number 5. So till now we have covered just a function, basic function, or till now we have covered user defined function. What is user defined function? There are basically 4 types of function: user defined function, built-in function, recursive function, and lambda function. So basically there are 4 types of function. Your theory faculty will teach you these types of functions. So the first one is user built-in function. Built-in function, you know, many built-in function. Print is a built-in function, len is a built-in function, then min max is a built-in function. So some are built-in function, some are user defined function. Which are the user defined function? Till now I have covered everything, or till now I have covered the user defined function. Why they are called user defined function? Because they are not built-in function, they are the function which I have defined. So I am a user, I have defined those functions. You are a user, you have defined the function. That's why these functions are called user defined function. So till now we have covered user defined function, and you know what are built-in function. That round function, I show you the round function, this one, this is a built-in function. The function, input function, those are built-in function. So there are 2 more types of function. One is recursive function, and another one is lambda function. So we won't cover lambda function in our 110 course, but this semester we have introduced recursive function. Previously recursive function was not in 110 syllabus, but in this semester we have added the recursive function. So basically, what is a recursive function? We have already seen so many functions that which calls another function inside the body of a function. Suppose, let's look up task number 1.4. This one, sequence. It is a function, it is a user defined function. It is calling another function named easyfit inside this. So one function is calling another function inside its body. So similarly here, suppose this one. So here, which one? This one. So this is my function try area. Inside this function I am calling another function whose name is valid triangle. What happen if I call a function, if I call myself inside body of a function? That means suppose if I have a function, suppose I have a function def greet. It's just a basic function. What will do it will just print hello from CSE110. Hello from CSE110. It's just a basic function which don't take and takes any which doesn't take any arguments. So আমি এখানে কোনো argument pass করি। So how to call a function? I just have to write the name of the function. So if I run this function, it will obviously print hello from CSE110. If I call this function again, it will print hello from CSE110 again. So basically if I run the function 100 times, so this string will print 100 times. So this is a function, this is a user defined function. Inside the user defined function I am printing this line and I am calling this function again and again. So this is a basic user defined function. So we have already seen that we can call another function. Suppose this is another function def greet message. It will just with def greet message, it will just suppose print hi. So inside this function, inside the greet function, if I call greet message function, what will happen? If I call this function, so whenever I call the greet function first time, it will go inside the body of the greet function. It will print hello from CSE110, and inside the body of the function I am calling another function just like the previous task I have shown. So it will call the greet message function. So it is another function. It will go inside the body of greet message function and it will print hi. So at first it will print this line and after that this will print hi. Again, after printing this, is there any line after line number 6? No, there isn't any line. Suppose if there is one line, print by. That means at first it will print hello from CSE110, then it is calling greet message function. It will jump to this line, then it will print hi. After printing hi, it will get back to the next line after this line. So the next line after this line is by. So it will print by. So basically at first print hello from CSE110, then hi, then by. So if I run this, hello from CSE110, then hi, then by. So again if I run the greet function, oh, sorry আমার ব্যাকগ্রাউন্ডের আওয়াজের জন্য। আচ্ছা বাবা একটা মিনিট একটু ওয়েট করেন তো, একটা মিনিট। If I call this function again, so it will do the same thing repeatedly. Hello from CSE110, hi bye. So this is a simple task. So what is the recursive function? Recursive function means I am calling a function, I am calling the same function inside the body of the function. That means I am calling, suppose here I am printing just hello, and again inside the function I am calling the greet function. So suppose I delete this one. So this is a basic greet function. If I call this greet function, it will just print hello. But what happens if I call the greet function inside the function? That means this part will execute at first, then it will jump to this line, it will print hello, then it sees that it is calling greet function again. So from line number 3 it will jump to line number 1, again it will print hello, then it will jump back to this line, again printing greet. So this line and this line, that means it basically creating an infinite loop. If I run this, look, It's basically creating an infinite loop. It will stop at a position. Where will it stop? Maximum recursion depth exceeded while calling a Python object. Because my memory location is full, so I have my function is stop calling itself. So আমি কি করছি, নিজের ফাংশনকে নিজেকে বারবার কল করছি। সো কল করতে করতে আমি হচ্ছে এখানে কল করছি 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 করতে করতে এক সময় আমার রিকারশনের ডেপথটা শেষ হয়ে যাচ্ছে। হোয়াট ইজ আ রিকারশন? বেসিক্যালি whenever I am calling myself inside the body of my function. This is my function greet. Greet is a recursive function. Why it is a recursive function? Because it is calling itself inside the body of the function. So I must have to give a termination condition. Obviously I have to give a condition, right? Because if I don't give a condition, this will create an infinite loop. So suppose if I give a condition just like if okay, so suppose if I give a condition here, suppose there is a variable n, I am taking one argument n, and this is suppose 10. So if I am checking if n equals to 0, it will just print hello. Otherwise it will call the function repeatedly. N minus equals to 1. So basically I am passing one argument, the value 10. It is stored in n. So I am giving a condition. If the value of n is 0 now, it will just print hello. Otherwise it will at first print hello. It will at first print hello, and then it will call itself. So how will it work? Look, so this is 10 here. So this is the body of my function. So if is n equals to 0, no. So this part won't execute. It will go to the else part. It will at first print hello. Then again, okay, this condition must be before the print state. This one. Okay. So now I am decrement the value of n. So the value of n is now 9. So I am calling the greet function again, and I am passing the value n. So you can decrement the value here, or you can decrement, okay, no problem. So I am just calling the function. So if I run this, look, my output is just printing 10 times. Why 10 times? It's not an infinite loop, because I have given a condition here. If the value of n is 0, then it will just print hello. Otherwise it will print hello, it will decrement the value of n, and again it will call the function. So whenever I call a same function inside the body of itself, so it is called a recursive function. একটা ফাংশনের বডির ভিতরে আমি যদি সেম ফাংশনকে আবার কল করি, তাহলে আমরা সেটাকে বলি হচ্ছে একটা রিকার্সিভ ফাংশন। এখন কথা হচ্ছে রিকার্সিভ ফাংশনের আপনাদের যে টাস্ক আছে, আমি একটা টাস্ক দেখাবো, আমি আপনাদের থিওরি ফ্যাকাল্টিকে বলে দিব, উনি যেন হচ্ছে বাকি টাস্কগুলো একটু আপনাদের গো থ্রু করেন। সেখানে দেখেন in task number 5, so write a function called 1 to n that will print 1 till n recursively. I have to write a recursive function whose name will be 1 to n. So definition and everything is same, just like the previous one, def 1 to n. So what will it take? It will print 1 to n recursively. N is a number taken as input from the user, and you need to print the numbers starting from 1 to n recursively. So at first you have to take a number n as input from the user. So this is my user input, and I will pass the value of n while calling the function. So this is my function call. So I have to pass 1, also the value of n. These are the arguments. So I am calling this function. So I am passing 1 and n. So obviously I have to take two variables here. Suppose 1, and I am taking the same value n. So you can take the same name, or you can take a different name. No, it's totally up to you. If you take same name, it is okay. If you take a different name, that is also okay. So I will print all the numbers from 1 to n. So basically look, I will print the value of a. If I print the value of a, okay, one thing, let me write the code at first, then I will explain it. If a equals to n, then it will just print a and equals to empty string. Why empty string? Because I want to print the values sequentially by giving a space. But if the number is not equals to n, then I will print this part. I will print this part and call the function again. Call this function again. While calling this function, I am incrementing the value of 1 and I will pass the value n as it is. Let me explain this task. Look, what happens here? I am, suppose the value of n is 5. The user input is 5. Basically, I am passing these two values as an argument n 1 and 5. So a is 1. The value of n is 5. So if I am checking, is n equals to 5? Is 1 equals to 5? No. This is my termination condition. You have to give a termination condition or a base condition. Base condition in a recursive function, because if you don't give a base condition, your recursion won't stop. It will create an infinite loop. So you have to give a base condition or a termination condition. So this is my termination condition. So here I have to check if a equals to n. That means whenever the value of a and the value of n is same, it will. That means I have reached the end of the loop, or I have reached the last number. So I will print the number just. Otherwise, I will print the number at first. Suppose 1 to 5. That means 1. Is 1 equals to 5? No, 1 is not equals to 5. So this line won't execute. So as this line won't execute, so it will jump to else condition. So it will print at first 1. So suppose this is my first output, 1. Then space. Look here, I am calling the function again. I am calling the function again. While calling the function, I am passing a plus 1. So previously the value of a was 1 and I am incrementing it by 1. So 1 plus 1 is 2. So 2 and the value of n is 5 again. So I am passing 2 and 5. So again from this line, this part will be executed. So 2 and 5. So again it will check, is 2 equals to 5? No, it is not equals to 5. So what will it happen? So it will print 2 because the value of a is 2 here. So it will print 2. Then I am calling the function again in a plus 1. So the value of a is 2. So 2 plus 1 is 3. So I am passing the arguments 3 and 5. So it will go back to here 3 and 5. Is 3 equals to 5? No. So it won't print it. So it will print just 3. And I am calling the function. Basically, I am incrementing the value of a. And it will stop the recursion step or the calling of itself. When will it stop? Whenever the value of a and the value of n is same. আমি বেসিক্যালি কি করতে চাচ্ছি দেখেন 1 থেকে 5 পর্যন্ত প্রিন্ট করব। সো আমি 1 থেকে চালাচ্ছি, আমি 5 নিয়ে নিলাম। এখন আমি 1টাকে প্রথম যে ভ্যালুটাকে প্রথম যে আর্গুমেন্টটাকে সেটাকে আমি 1 করে করে ইনক্রিমেন্ট করছি। সো 1 2 3 4 এরকম করে চলতে থাকবে। সো প্রত্যেকবার আমি ভ্যালুটা প্রিন্ট করে দিচ্ছি, 1 প্রিন্ট করে দিচ্ছি, আর্গুমেন্ট হিসেবে 2 আর 5 পাস করে দিচ্ছি। আবার ফাংশনে চলে গেল, আবার এখানে 2 প্রিন্ট করছি, 3 and 5 পাস করে দিচ্ছি। এইভাবে চলতে চলতে at one time the value of a will be 5. So whenever it checks is 5 equals to 5, yes, whenever the value of 5 a and n are equal, then it will print just a, then the recursion. It won't call the function again. So if I run this, this is my value 1 to n. So this is my value. I know it's a bit tricky task or a difficult task, so I hope whenever your theory faculty will go through the recursion part, you will be able to understand this part. So আমি আরেকটা প্রবলেম একটু দেখাই। এই যে জিনিসটা দেখেন, এটা এখানে আমি কি করছি, here I am printing the numbers from 1 to 5. So suppose the value of n is 40. So I am passing 1 to 40. So it will recursively call itself from 1 to 40. 1 to 40, whenever the value of 1 and 40, whenever the value of a and 14, a and n are same, so it will just print the value, it won't call the function itself. Otherwise, it will call the function every time. So 1, at first the value of 1, a is 1, so it will print 1. Okay, then I am calling the function by incrementing the value of a. So 1 plus 1 is 2, so I am calling this function again. So this is again my function call. So from this line, it will jump to this line. So 2 and 40. So is 2 equals to 40? No, it is not equals to 40. Then it will print 2, and I am calling the function again by passing the arguments 3 and 40. Then print. It will go back to here again. Then it will check, no, it is not satisfied. Then it will print 3. So it will do the task repeatedly unless the number a and the number n are equal. Whenever the numbers are equal, then it will just print the value of a. It won't call the function recursively again. So this is my 5.1. 5.2 is just a similar task, but instead of printing 1 to 14, you are just printing 14 to 1, or you are just printing recursively, reverse printing. Write a function reverse printing from 1 to n recursively. এখানে প্রথমটাই হচ্ছে আমি 1 থেকে n পর্যন্ত প্রিন্ট করছিলাম, এখন আমি n থেকে 1 পর্যন্ত প্রিন্ট করব। সো n থেকে 1 পর্যন্ত যদি প্রিন্ট করি, আমাকে কি করতে হবে? So I have to write the function. So the name of the function will be reverse printing. This is my name of the function reverse printing. So it will take 2 arguments. The first one will be in, just like the same one, just like the previous one. So this is my function. There will be some change of the condition. So if I will print the value of n, here I will print the value of n because I want to start from n. Previously I started from a or 1. Previously I printed the value of a because the value of a was 1. So আমি 1 থেকে n পর্যন্ত প্রিন্ট করছিলাম, কিন্তু এই টাস্কের জন্য I am doing the reverse. So I have to print the value of n and I will decrement the value of n. So I have to check here if n equals to 1. Initially the value of n, suppose it is 40. It is 40. So I have to print the value of n. I have to print the value of n and 1 minute. I have to print the value of n, and while calling the function again, I am passing a as it is, but instead of passing n, I am passing n minus 1. Why n minus 1? Because suppose the value of n is 5. Initially the value of n is 5. So I am passing 1 and 5. So it will go back to here. So is n equals to 1? No, the value of n is 5 here. So it will print 5 at first. So the first output will be 5. Now I am calling the function again and passing these two values. A will be 1. I didn't change this value, but instead of passing n, I am passing n minus 1. So the previous value of n was 5, so 5 minus 1 is 4. So again it will call this function. Is 4 equals to 1? No. So it will print 4 as it is. So it will print 4. Then it will call itself again, but this time it will pass the arguments as 1 and 3. So it will do the same thing recursively. এই যে আপনাদের পর আরেকটা টাস্ক আছে, ইন দিস টাস্ক ইউ জাস্ট হ্যাভ টু অ্যাড দ্য নাম্বারস ফ্রম 1 to n. সো এটা আমি দেখাবো না। হোপফুলি আমি যে জিনিসটা বললাম, আপনারা যদি চান, ইফ ইউ ওয়ান্ট, ইউ ক্যান সি দ্য রেকর্ডিং অ্যাগেইন after your theory faculty cover recursive function. So আমি বলবো ওইটার পরে if you go through the video again you will be able to solve this task. আমি রিকারসিভের দুইটা টাস্ক দেখিয়েছি, one more task বাকি আছে, ওইটা হচ্ছে আপনারা পারবে. In the first recursive task I have shown how to print from 1 to n numbers recursively. In the second task I have shown how to print n to 1. We have already solved this task using loop, but instead of using loop in those two tasks, we have solved those tasks using recursive approach. That means a function which calls itself again and again, but if we don't give any termination condition or a base condition, it won't stop, it will create a infinite loop. So obviously we have to give a base condition. So এখানে কোনো কোয়েশ্চেন থাকলে বলেন, if you have any question in this part or the coding part. Otherwise I will show two tracing. One is basic function tracing and one is recursive tracing. So if you have any question একটু বলেন, otherwise I will start the tracing part. Okay, so make sure I will provide the recording, so make sure you go through the recording later, otherwise you won't be able to solve the or solve the coding problems. Okay, so make sure you see the recordings later. Okay, so let me just open a Excel file. So I have previously created a file for the trace table. So if you have pen and paper with you, so I will request you to solve the tracing with me. So 1 minute. Okay. So at first I will show you the task number 4.1. So this is a tracing task. This is a function tracing task. So basically what we do, we basically initialize or write the variables or create variables, create different columns using the name of the variables. So here is just like the same thing. Look, in Python the lines execute sequentially. At first the line number 1 will execute, then line number 2, then line number 3, and so on. But one thing I have already told you, a function won't execute unless it is called. So just go through the code at first. There is a print statement. It is just a print statement. Okay, so after that there is a variable c. There are a function here f3. F3 is a function. Okay, I am defining a function. So this function won't execute unless it is called. ফাংশনটা আমার এক্সিকিউট হবে না যতক্ষণ পর্যন্ত না আমি ওকে কল করছি. ওকে, then there is a line number 8 I am printing here. So let's start from line number 1. So this is my very first line. So this is my line number 1. So at first this line will obviously print as it is. It's just a print statement. So my first output will be this. This is my first output, just a print statement. Okay, then look, there is a variable c. So I am creating a column for a variable whose name is c. And what is the value of the variable? It is 99. I have written global here. So there are two types of variable in a function. One is global variable and one is local variable. What is a global variable? Let me tell you what is a local variable first. Whenever we declare a variable inside the body of a function, that means it is a global variable. Suppose in our previous task, so suppose this circ1 area, I have defined it used inside the body of the function, inside the body of the fitting function. That means it is a local variable. Again, diameter 1, diameter 2, dimension, these are local variables. So which variables are local variables? Those one which we have defined or initialized inside the body of a function. So okay, so this is my local variable here. A is a local variable. So which variables are known as global variable? The variables we have declared so far, we have used so far. আমরা এর আগে কি অনেক ভ্যারিয়েবল ডিফাইন করেছি না? Basically, if I am initializing or defining a variable inside the body of a function, they are called local variable. Otherwise, all the functions outside the body of a function are known as global variable. So basically, C is a global variable. Why it is called a global variable? Because global variables are accessible through anywhere. I can access the global variable inside the body of a function, outside the body of a function, anywhere. But the local variables are accessible only from inside the body of a function. Suppose A is a local variable. So if you print A inside this function or use A inside this function, no error will occur. But if you suppose after this line, if you print A, it will show an error because the lifestyle or the span of a local variable or the scope of a local variable is only inside the body of a function. Outside the body of a function, you can't access the local variable. So that's the basic difference of global variable and local variable. So okay, so this is a global variable C whose value is 99. Done. Then line number 3 will execute. Here I can see there is a function defined f1. So there is the f3. There is a function defined f3. So this body of the function will not execute because I haven't called the function yet. So from line number 4 to 7, this line won't execute. So after line number 3, after line number 3, it will directly get jumped back to the line number 8. So here I am printing starting 2. So this is my second output. This is my starting 2. This is my second output. Okay. So after line number 8 is done. Then in line number 9, I can see there is another function whose name is f1. So again, the function isn't called yet. So I can't access the body of the function. So from line number 10 to line number 13, from line number 10 to line number 12, this part won't execute. So I have to skip this line for now. It will execute only if I call the function. So basically from line number 8, I will directly get jump back to line number 30. So it is starting 1. So my third output will be starting 1. Starting 1. This is my third output. Okay, done. Then again, after line number 13, I can see another function if f2 is defined. So again, as the function isn't called, so I won't execute the function. So it will skip this part. From line number 14 to 17, it will skip that part. So basically, after line number 13, after printing starting 1, it will directly get jumped back to this line. Line number 18. Look here, the function f1 is called. There is a print statement, and inside the print statement I have called the f1 function. Okay, so f1 function is called. So I have to check if there is any f1 function defined previously or before this line number 18. Yes, there is a function f1 is defined in line number 9. So from line number 18, it will directly jump back to line number 9. So line number 18 থেকে line number 9 এসে jump করবে. Okay. Then it will execute the body of the function now. So here it is printing f1 bigger. So my fourth output will be f1 bigger. Done. Then in line number 11, I can see I am calling a function f2 and passing a variable, passing a value 5. So I have to check where the function f2 is defined. Look, in line number 14, I am defining this. I have defined the function f2. So basically, this is my column for f2 function. I have created 3 columns for 3 functions, f1, f2 and f3. So in this line I am calling the f2 function. So obviously আমি যেখানে ফাংশনটাকে কল করি ওখানেই চলে যাবে, মানে যেখানে কল করছি ওখান থেকে ফাংশনের বডিতে চলে যাবে। So 5 is the argument, c is the parameter. So there is a local variable c, this is a local variable c, and the value of c will be 5. Why? Because I am passing the value 5 here. The value of c will be 5. So I have updated the value 5. Okay. Then it will print this line, f2 begun. So f2 begun, done. Then look, I have completed. কোনো question আছে? বুঝিনি।
You got F12.
F12. Where F? Oh, okay, got it. It should be F2 begun. Okay, so I have printed this line, f2 begun. So after that, from line number 15 I have to jump, take the line number 16. So inside the line number 16 I can see that there is a print statement, and inside the print statement I have called a function f3. So again, as I am calling f3 function, so I have to go where the f3 function is defined, and while going to the function definition I have to take the value of c, which is 5, as an argument. So let's check where the function f3 is defined. So previously I was in this line, and a line থেকে I will get back to where the function f3 is defined. So this is my f3 function. So from line number 16, from this line number 16, I have to get back to line number 3. So while going back to line number 3, I have passed the value of c as an argument. So the value of c is 5, and in f3 function a is a parameter. So f3, so there is a variable parameter named a. So the value of c, that means 5, has passed to a. So the value of a will be 5 here. So I just passed the value of r. This is my argument, right? C is my argument, and the value of c, is 5 here. Don't confuse between this global c and this local c, because I am calling inside the body of f2 function. So this is my local c. This is my local c, and my local c's value is 5. So I am passing 5 here. So I am calling f3 function and passing 5 here. So 5 is stored as a here. So okay, this is my 5. This is my a. So it will print f3 begun. So now it will print f3 begun, done. Then it will print a plus c. So look, I am now inside function 3. So what is the value of a? A is 5. A is 5 here. So what will be the value of c? Can anyone tell me? Will it be 5 or will it be 99? What will be the value of c here?
No, 99.
Yes, it will be
Yes.
99. Yes, very good. It will be 99. Why it will be 99? I have previously told that in this function, this c is a local variable of f2 function. So local variables can only be accessible inside the body of that function. Outside the body of that function, I can't access the local variables. So basically this indicates the global variable, which value is 99. So the value of a is 5, and the global variable c's value is 99. So 5 plus 99 is 104. So it will print from line number 5. It will print 104. So this is my next output, 104. So okay, I will print this line next, f3 ending. So this is f3 ending, done. I will return something. So where will the return value be stored? So when where I have defined the function f3. So this is my function f3, where I have called the function f3. So this was my function f3, where why I have jumped to this line, because I have called the function in this line. So in this part, So I will return a into 5. The value of a is 5. So 5 into 5 is 25. So 25 will be returned here. Here 25 will be returned here. Okay, so 25 will be returned here. So 25 plus 30, it is basically 55. So it will print 55. So it is my next output. So this is my 55. Done. Then it will print F2 ended. F2 ended. এখন কথা হচ্ছে আমি F2 তে কেন এসেছিলাম? Why my F2 function is executed? Because F2 function is called inside the F1 function. So basically from line number 11, I jump to line number 40. And inside the F2 function, I jump to F3 function. So after returning from F3 function, I return the value 25, and 25 plus 30 is 55. So my output is 55. Then I printed F2 ended. So why I jump to F2 function? Because F2 function is called from line number 11. So after calculating line number 17, or after printing line number 17, it will directly get jumped to line number 12. So from this line my F2 function was called. So after calculating, or after completing the body of the function, it will directly get jumped back to after that line where F2 function was called. So F2 function was called in line number 11, then it will print this line F1 ended. So after that my output will be F1 ended. So again, why I have why my F1 function executed? Because F1 function was called from this line, right? This is my F1 function. And why my F1 function executed? Because F1 function was called in line number 18. One thing, am I returning something inside the function? I am not returning anything inside the F1 function. If I return something, suppose if I return true, so this true will be stored here in this part. As we have আমরা একটু আগে দেখেছি এখানে, রাইট? আমি যখন কোনো কিছুকে রিটার্ন করি, রিটার্ন করা ভ্যালুটা অলওয়েজ স্টোরস whenever in that place where the function is called. But here I haven't returned anything. As I haven't returned anything, then what will return and what will store here? Always remember, if I don't return anything, but if I want to print something before the function call, after calling the function call, by default none will return. By default none will return. What does it mean? Just look at this part, right? I am returning area. Suppose if I print, instead of returning, if I just print here area, I am printing here area and I am calling the function. Suppose I have given 2 here, and before calling the function I am using the print statement. So if I run this, it will at first print the area, then none. Why none? Because I haven't returned anything from the function. So আমি যদি কোনো কিছু রিটার্নই না করি, তাহলে এখানে বসবেই বা কি আর প্রিন্ট হবেই বা কি? So if I haven't returned anything, so by default it will return none and it will print none. So it's just like this one. This is the same thing. Inside the F1 function I haven't returned anything, so by default it will return none and it will print none. So after line number 18 my output will be none. So after that line number 19 will execute and it's just a print statement. All done. বলেন কোনো কোয়েশ্চেন আছে? আই নো আপনাদের একটু কষ্ট হয়ে যাচ্ছে, ইটস এ বিট ডিফিকাল্ট ফর ইউ টু, বেসিক্যালি 3 ঘন্টায় প্রায় ক্লাস করতে হচ্ছে, বাট বাবা অ্যাকচুয়ালি আমার কিছু করার নেই। আপনি অলরেডি বলেছি যে আপনাদের হচ্ছে যেহেতু থিওরি ক্লাসে কভার করা হয়নি, দ্যাটস ওয়াই আপনাদের ল্যাবে একটু কষ্ট হয়ে গিয়েছে। সো আমাকে একটু বলেন, আমি যে ফাংশনটা দেখালাম, ডু ইউ হ্যাভ এনি কোয়েশ্চেন, এনি ট্রেসিং রিলেটেড কোনো কোয়েশ্চেন আছে কিনা? যদি না থাকে আমি রিকার্সিভের একটা ট্রেসিং দেখাবো, ওটা হলে আমার ডান। কোনো কোয়েশ্চেন আছে? আমি আপনাদের সাথে হচ্ছে ফাইলগুলো, I will share the collab file and the meet link recording of today's class, so you will be able to see the recording. So this was my function tracing. is one more tracing of the recursive function. This is the last task. I know you all are tired, so actually I'm really sorry for that, but I can't do anything. I have to complete this. So just give me 10 to 15 minutes maximum, then it will be done. Okay, it's my last task. So there is a one more tracing. It is factorial recursion tracing. There is a code. There is a function, recursive function, and I have to solve this code. So এই টাস্কে না আমরা একটু বুঝবো যে কিভাবে রিকারশনটা কাজ করে, এটা বুঝলেই হবে। It's just basically to understand, to make you understand how recursive function calls or how recursive function executes. So look, at first I have defined a function here. So I won't execute the lines unless the function is called. So I am calling the function here factorial 5. So basically this 5 will be stored in n variable. So suppose this is my n variable. 1 minute. So this is my n variable. This is my n variable. So what will be the value of n? I am passing 5 as an argument. So 5 will be stored inside the n. So this is my n. Done. Then I am checking. Is n equals to 0? No, the value of n is 5 here. So it won't execute this line. Okay. Then it will go to else condition. So what will it do? Look, it will return something. What will it return? N into, then again I am calling the factorial function. So let me write the thing here again. So this is my n. So look, what will I return? So after for the value of 5, for the value of n which is 5, this part will execute at first. So I will return what? N into, then I am calling the function again. So at first let me write n. So what is the value of n? N is 5. So n into factorial of n minus 1. So currently the value of n is 5. So 5 minus 1 is 4. Okay. So this is 4. This is my first part. আমার কিন্তু এখনই রিটার্ন হচ্ছে না, আমি জাস্ট ফাংশনটাকে বারবার কল করছি। I am just calling the function again and again. I won't return it immediately. I will calculate or return the value step by step. How will I return or when will I return? I will just show you here. Just look at this line. So when the value of n is 5, so it will return 5 into factorial of 4. So as I am calling the function here again, so obviously from this line it will get jump back to line number 1. So this function will execute again, and currently the value of n is 4, right? Because I am passing 4 here. The value of n will be 4. Okay, 4. So is 4 equals to 0? No, 4 is not equals to 0. So I will return what? 4 into factorial of n minus 1. So again 4 into factorial of n minus 1. So n is 4. So 4 minus 1 is 3. Okay, done. So again I am calling the function. The value of n is 4 minus 1, which is 3. So I will get back to this line. Is n equals to 3? 0 or 1? No. So again this part will execute. So now the value of n is 3. So for 3 I will calculate 3 into factorial of 2. So 3 into factorial of 3 minus 1. So basically 2. Okay, done. Then here the value of n is 2. So I am calling the function again 2. So the value of n is 2 now. So 2. Then is 2 equals to 0 or 1? No. So nothing. This line won't execute. It will get back to else condition, and I am returning n into factorial of the value of n is 2 now. So 2 into factorial of 2 minus 1. So 2 minus 1 is 1. Done. So in this line n minus 1. So 2 minus 1 is 1. So I am calling the function again and passing 1 as an argument. So the value of n will be 1 here. So the value of n will be 1. Now look, if this condition satisfied, n equals to 0 or 1. Yes, the value of n is 1 here. So as the value of n is 1 here, so I will return 1. So I will return 1. আমি কোথায় রিটার্নটা কোথায় করব? Where will I return this 1? I will return 1 when in which part? In this part. In this part, because while passing the value of a 1, while passing the value of n equals to 1, so my this condition satisfied, so I will return 1. So basically this line or this part will be replaced by 1. So 2 into 1, 2 into 1 equals to 2, right? 2 into 1 equals to 2. So I will return this part, basically recursively call again and return again and again. So this part, right? 2 into the value of this part was 1. So 2 into 1. So 2 into 1 will be returned where factorial 2 is called. Basically এই জায়গাটাতে যেখানে আপনার factorial 2 টাকে কল করেছিলাম সেই জায়গাটায় আমি সেটাকে আমি রিটার্ন করে দেব. So again 2 into 1, which is 2, this part will be returned here এই জায়গাটাতে. So 2 into 1 is equals to 2. So it will be 3 into 2 is 6. Done. Again, why this part executed or why this calculation performed? Because in this line I call the factorial 3. So the value of n was 3 here. So 3 into 2 is 6. So this 6 will be returned to this part, only this part. So it is 6 again. So 6 into 4 is 24. So 24. So where will the 24 return? Where I have called factorial of 4. So here factorial of 4 is 5 into 24. So what is the value of 5 into 24? It is probably 120. So where 120 will return? Directly 120. Where I have called the function factorial 5 in this line, right? So the total output 120 will be returned here. 120 will be returned here and it will be printed. So the only output will be my 120. I know আপনারা অনেকেই হয়তো বা বুঝতে পারেন, আমি একটু বলবো, আপনি হচ্ছে প্লিজ আগে হচ্ছে একটু থিওরি ক্লাসে রিকারশনটা একটু কভার করবেন. আপনাদের থিওরি ফ্যাকাল্টি রিকারশনটা কভার করলে then please see the recording again, then you will be able to understand what I have just told you. ওকে, সো যদি কোনো কোয়েশ্চেন থাকে বলতে পারেন, আদারওয়াইজ আমি হচ্ছে I will take the attendance and the class will end here. কোনো কোয়েশ্চেন আছে একটু আমি রিকোয়েস্ট করবো, I will request everyone to go through the recordings again after covering, after your theory faculty covers function and recursive function in your class. After that, please go through the lecture, then you will be able to what I have just told you or why I am repeatedly returning the values again and again. So কোনো কোয়েশ্চেন থাকলে বলেন, আদারওয়াইজ আমি অ্যাটেন্ডেন্স নিয়ে আপনাদেরকে ছেড়ে দেব.
ম্যাম এলস ব্লকে যে লাস্টে যে লেখা ছিল ফ্যাক্টোরিয়াল n-1, তারপর যে একটা নাম্বার পাওয়া গেল
এলস ব্লকে, হ্যাঁ বলেন এখন.
হ্যাঁ ম্যাম, এখানে যে ফ্যাক্টোরিয়াল n-1 তারপর যে আমরা 4 পেলাম,
জি
তারপর কি মানে n এর মান তাহলে ওই 4 হয়েছে, কারণ হলো গিয়ে ফ্যাক্টোরিয়াল ফাংশনটার ভিতরে n এর মানটা মানে
এখন দেখেন
4 হয়ে
আমি
গেছে।
তো এখানে 4 পাস করে দিচ্ছি না, সো 4টা বেসিক্যালি কোথায় চলে যাচ্ছে? এই 4টা কিন্তু n ভ্যারিয়েবলে স্টোর হয়ে যাচ্ছে না, সো আবার আমার n এর ভ্যালুটা 4 হয়ে যাচ্ছে. সো 4 এর জন্য আমি আবার চেক করছি যে 4 কি ইকুয়ালস টু 0 আর 1 না. সো তখন কি হচ্ছে, এলসে যে
না ম্যাম,
আবার কাজটা করছে.
ম্যাম আমাদের আপকামিং টপিকগুলো কি একটু বলতে পারবেন না?
হ্যাঁ আচ্ছা একটু বলি, যিনি কোয়েশ্চেন করলেন উনি কি বুঝেছেন মাত্র যেটা বললাম?
ইয়েস ম্যাম।
আচ্ছা ঠিক আছে, আমি রেকর্ডিংটা অফ করে দিচ্ছি. So for the assignment you have to complete. Previously you just had to solve the homework problems, right? But as you are not there is no class evaluation task, so you have to solve in your assignment. You have to solve all the coding problems, both the classworks and the homeworks problem. That means you have to solve these homework problems as well as the classwork problems I have just shown. So you have to submit the collab files. The collab file, you will have to do the tracing in a collab file, and you will submit the collab file. And for the tracing, you have to, obviously, you have previously submitted your assignment 4, just like assignment 4. For the coding part, you have to submit the collab file, and for the tracing part, you have to do it in painted paper and make a PDF and submit it. We will later share a link with you. You will have to submit it using a Google form. So if you don't have any question, so I will take the attendance and আপনাদের ছেড়ে দেব।